Hey everybody, Hugh here. Welcome back. Well, I thought I might give you an update on planting the onion sets, a couple of tips and hints on what we're doing, and maybe you might have some suggestions for us too. You can see onion sets are basically these onion bulbs, if you like, that you're setting into the soil. A couple of different times a year you can do it. You can do it in the autumn time if you get the autumn sets, and of course you can do it in the spring if you get the spring sets. What they are actually onions that have been germinated last year and then encouraged to die back to a bulb, as you can see, and then we go along and buy them in bulb format and we set them into the soil. Now, of course, plenty of people do onions from seed. I've done it from onions from seed myself, and I think it's fair to say that sets are a bit of a cheat really into getting onions without some of the work of doing the seeds. The seeds typically have to be done quite early in the year and minded and brought on then right through the spring into the summer. Whereas if you look at some of my earlier videos that I did a few years back, you can see I was planting seeds in March, April, was it? Sorry, planting sets in March, April, and basically starting them off under cover and then planting them as plants into the soil about a month or maybe 6 weeks later, and then you get your onions then, well, mid-August, thereabouts, or is it September? Anyway, you get it coming into autumn time. But at this time of year, and we are in February now, and February is going by very quickly, so I really wanted to get the sets in. And although they're early to put in from previous years that I've done them, at this time of year, because you've got what we call the grow house here, the potager grow house, I'm confident that we can bring these guys on in reasonably comfortable conditions before we plant them out then as the frosts are beginning to disappear there or thereabouts. So they'll have a nice comfortable life in the grow house here. Soil wise, well, as always, I'll do my soil mix. I used some of our own homemade compost here, about a third of that, about a third of bags topsoil, and then a third of bought compost. And the compost that I'm using that's been bought is one that's peat free, although it's not organic. So it's quite funny to see all the commentary about the different soils. You get peat free or compost, you get peat free, you get organic, and you get both, and there's a lot of narration on the qualities of same. This particular one seems to be a reasonably good peat free version of it, so I'm trying it out. We'll have a look and see how it compares with the other composts. But as part of my compost mix, it's fitted in very well there, very well indeed. We've done 18 modules, as you can see, so we'll come back to that as to why so many or so few, depending on the amount of space. But let's first of all look at the sets. Now, these sets that we bought last January. They were an autumn set, Shenzhou Zen, yeah, I don't know how you pronounce that, you can advise. And they were €6 and they've been reduced to £1. We bought that as part of our haul for at Christmas time, so I'm interested to see how these exactly perform. You can see some of them have already indeed sprouted. Now, don't plant these ones that have already sprouted, although it is tempting to do so if you're looking for the spring crop. Or certainly I'm looking for recommendations if you're saying, no Hugh, they're the very ones that you should be sprouted. But my experience, bulbs and that have already sprouted in their bags don't do very much of them at all, apart from not planting them. So, well, actually, you could eat the greenery on those, couldn't you? You could, very much so. They'd probably give it a quite nice onion flavour to a sandwich or a meal. But the sets that I'm looking for to plant, and this is a general set of things, are ones that are, are ones that are of a nice medium size, that are reasonably firm, and that there looks like there's no damage to them. So there's plenty of them there. One particular book I was reading was recommending, I think it was a Jeff Hamilton book, that the smaller sets rather than the bigger ones are ones that will come on a lot more effectively. So I haven't done an exact experiment on that, maybe I should, smaller versus larger. And of course you'll sometimes come across a term where sets have been heated, pre-treated, and that's to like power charge them, that's to get them started and get them setting off. But I think for the purposes of what we do, we're just looking for ones that are of a reasonable size, you know, that are no damage to them, that actually look good. As we plant them down, and you can see that they've already been planted here into the compost, which was put into the trays and then reasonably well firmed, we leave the necks actually sticking up above the soil here, and that gives you a fairly good sense of them. There's one there that the soil hasn't been put around. This is Hugh's handiwork. She was the one that was taking charge of actually putting them in the soil, and a good job done there. Well done. Now we've done 18, and we were having a great debate as to, well, how many onions do we actually need to grow? And I think the rule of thumb was that we eat about one every 2 to 3 weeks, so it's not a lot. So we have 18 there, and I suppose that's 3 18s would be about right. We wouldn't eat a lot of onions, although we do like growing them. So in trying to not overcommit ourselves, there's 18 there. I might do I might do another tray there just to do them, so that'll give us 24, so that'll be one every 2 weeks. I'm sure I always find with our homegrown onions, they tend to be smaller than the shop bought, so maybe we'll have a few more planted. These will remain in the greenhouse here. I'm going to say greenhouse, I should say grow house. It's our polycarbonate tunnel. I remembered the name. You can see Smudge there having a sniff around. We did have some mouse trouble, so she's been a regular visitor in here. But it's a nice size. It's 3 meters by 4, and it's fairly well insulated. And you'll have seen it before where I've been talking about the heat in this is just so much better than outside, and of course it stops the wind. So these guys will sit in here for quite some time, until just about the last frosts have passed, because onion sets can bolt, or they can run into trouble if they get chilled too much. So some people will sow the autumn onions and then find that they bolt in spring, and that's typically because the soil that they're in just gets too wet and too cold, and they get a shock and they bolt and they go to seed and they don't come to anything. So give them a little bit of loving, a little bit of heat, and we'll see what happens. My one query is, should I have just gone and bought the autumn sowing sets? Am I taking a chance with these? Or should I have gone and bought the spring sowing sets? Am I taking a chance with the autumn ones? But it's like, actually, for €1, if there's a complete disaster, well, you know, maybe you can buy some more in April. Although it'll be late for them, can still do it. So we have a few months there to see. So we'll have a go. Couple of comments I was following up on or reading on someone else's. They were sowing onion sets, and someone left a comment about, don't do sets, it leads to onion white rot, was their comment. And there's some truth in that onions, alliums, garlic, all of that family, there is a persistent disease, if it gets into soil, is white rot of onions. And if it gets into the soil, the mycelium can last in there 10 years or longer. Basically the soil becomes unusable for any of the onion family crops or even garden plants, because they attack. There is no cure, although they're trying various methods now on neutralizing the mycelium in the soil, but at the moment there is no cure, and sowing sets is one of the ways that actually the mycelium spread. You can't actually detect it on the plants until midst of summer, when the soil temperatures are right up and the plants are then affected, and by then it's too late, it's in the soil. If you do come across these onions that are stunted and that begin to fall over just when they're reaching their prime, you should remove them and remove the soil immediately around the onion where it's been grown as well, to try stop the spread. Because we don't plant in the soil here, all our plants are in pots and containers, as you may know, or if you don't, everything is in pots and containers because of the situation that we're in. So I'm not as hesitant to plant, because we can simply just dispose of the soil and the contents in the pot if things go awry in a good way. I wonder, does extreme heat kill the mycelium? I presume it does if the soil is brought to a green waste stepper, because the way they treat the soil there brings it up. Again, lots of questions, but it is a territory that is unexplored. So there's the onion sets. You can see those ones that have sprouted. As I say, I'm not inclined to use those because I don't think they'll come to anything much. These ones will grow very nicely. Hopefully won't go to seed. They won't bolt. Now if they do bolt, of course they'll produce a nice flower, which is great for insects. So that's the other side of it. What will we do with those onion sets that are left over? Well, thoughts on a postcard please. I'm inclined to think that we'll cram them into a couple of pots, grow them on as greenery, and sort of use them like chives or similar. Anyway, as always, slightly longer video than planned. This is coming on to 12 minutes now, so thank you for sticking by as much of it as you can. But it has been about sowing onion sets, starting them off in containers, picking the nice firm ones to grow, and working away from there. As always, please do like and subscribe, and of course leave a comment, and we'll talk to you in the next one. So from Smudge and from me, it's bye for now. All the best. Take care. Bye bye.